What's an injury you sustained and lied about how it actually happened because it was too embarrassing? I was once buttering toast with my face really close to it. I like my butter spread to be precise. Then I sneezed and slammed my head on the counter, effectively knocking myself out, and I had to go to the ER to be treated for a concussion. Story 2. I was absolutely hammered and fell in the parking lot of my friend's apartment and busted my face wide open at her birthday party. The birthday party just so happened to be the night before a second date with this really cute girl I met on Tinder. Went on the date and told the girl that a dog at work had knocked me over and I fell on my face. I work with dogs, and me being put on my butt by a Great Dane or something isn't unusual. She understood. While on the date, some guys came up to me and rudely asked, "What the hell happened to your face?" My Tinder date grabbed my hand and made up some story about how I got in a fight defending her honor at a bar or something. I could hardly keep a straight face while she was telling the story, but she sold the crap out of it. It wasn't until a few days later I told her the real story of how I got hurt. Tinder date and I are getting married soon. Okay, what an absolute queen. Coming to your defense of a random Tinder date? Like, was this OP said it was the second date? And she was willing to do this for you? Hell yeah, you're getting married. Very nice, OP. Story 2. I have a 1.5-inch stab wound scar on my left bicep. When I was younger and attractive, girls asked me how it happened. I would tell them it happened during a fight where someone pulled a knife on me. Actually, I worked in a butcher shop of a market when I was in my late teens. Part of my job was to collect all the carving knives from the prep area, put into a large plastic bin, and carry them behind the deli case to the kitchen to wash. One time, coming back out of the kitchen, I failed to notice that someone had opened the trap door to the basement in my direct path while I was in the kitchen. The plastic bin obscured my view. I took one fateful step opposite to the stairs side and tumbled into the basement, with the contents of the bin raining down around me. Somehow I escaped with only a twisted ankle and the aforementioned stab wound in my arm, for which I had to go to the ER for stitches for. I'll always remember being dazed, sitting at the bottom of the stairs looking up and seeing a meat cleaver embedded in one of the steps. Now, I get it. I get why you'd lie to a chick to make yourself sound cooler, because sure, getting in a fight with a guy with a knife, sure, cooler. This actual story, though, is also insane. The sheer luck that you have to not get a much, much worse injury there is astounding. OP cheated death as far as I'm concerned, and from a dude perspective, that's cool as hell. Story 4. I was having some trouble with my heart a few months ago that caused dizziness and occasional fainting. Passed out while in the shower and sprained my wrist. Told my coworkers it was a workout injury because I passed out in the shower was a visual I didn't really want to give everyone. Edit. I can't respond to all these comments individually, so here are a few answers for you. 1. I don't know enough about the Apple Watch to know if it would have helped me, but my symptoms are totally in control because of the meds I'm on, so I don't plan on getting one. 2. Propranolol is the medication I'm on. It's a beta blocker. 3. A lot of you are asking if my heart issue was resolved and what my diagnosis was. After several months of symptoms, I was finally diagnosed thanks to a Holter monitor my cardiologist had me wear. I wore it for 2 weeks. The monitor caught and recorded a ton of irregular heartbeats in both the upper and lower chambers in my heart that were happening daily. My heart was skipping beats and then doing little extra half beats for lack of a proper medical term to try to compensate. I was also having rapid heartbeats, which I already knew from checking my pulse. My doctor put me on a medication to resolve the irregular beats, and my symptoms have all gone away. Unless I forget to take my meds, in which case I feel my heart having irregular beats at times. 4. Several people are asking about my symptoms because they're having similar symptoms. Many different heart problems can cause similar symptoms, so please don't diagnose yourself based on my story. If you're having unusual symptoms that seem like they're stemming from your heart, I urge you to see a good cardiologist as soon as you can. You won't be able to diagnose yourself from internet research, and you need medical help to prevent any long-term damage. If your doctor tells you you're fine because you don't meet the usual criteria for heart issues, i.e. smoker, overweight, family history, etc., get another doctor and advocate for yourself. Story 5. I haven't exactly lied about it, but depending on who I'm talking to, I have been leaving out some important details. I got my wife an electric scooter for her birthday. The day she got it, we went out for a ride. I was on my electric skateboard. It had recently rained a bit, so the pavement was a little wet, but not too bad as long as you were careful. I got the idea to pretend to fart and get a speed boost from it. So I made a farting sound and totally gunned it. Since the pavement was damp, my board slid out from under me and I went down directly in front of my wife. She didn't have time to stop, and so she also fell. We both got some scrapes and bruises, and unfortunately she got it worse than I did. When telling the story, I've left out the fart boost part if it's someone I'm not really close to. Story 6. My grandmother noticed a mark on my forehead. It was round and just under an inch in diameter. She asked me what happened. Without a beat, I straight up replied, I burnt my head with my hair straightener. She grumbled I should be more careful. What really happened, you ask? Well, I got my head stuck between the back seat and back armrest of a car, resulting in a friction burn similar to carpet burn, while, having intimate relations in the back seat. Story 7. I've been waiting 25 years for this moment. As a 10-year-old boy, my friend had a mini hoop on his closet door in his room. We would always shoot the ball while playing Super Nintendo or whatever. One day, we started shooting and then had a real one-on-one game, with the dribbling, scorekeeping, etc. I went for a dunk and didn't realize the closet doorknob was missing and it was just a jagged metal jutting out of the door. I remember looking down and seeing my shorts torn open and a bloody gash, and I was in shock. The cut was inches from my man parts. Whew, this was a close one. It wasn't bleeding a ton, and I could see fat and other strange stuff. It was a couple inches long, and I was a frickin' idiot 10-year-old, so I got a bunch of bandages from his house and limped home. Neosporin and bandages for weeks until it healed. Never told my parents, but I'm not sure why. I have a visible scar to this day. Okay, I have some judgment for the parents of the other kid, though. Like, what parent just lets their child have a protruding metal, it kind of sounds like a spike or something, coming out of a door? That sounds incredibly dangerous, and clearly it was. I am also kind of impressed with OP for keeping it under wraps, and literally under wraps. At 10 years old, I wouldn't trust myself to use bandages properly. Is that sad? I think this might be a me issue. Story 8. An ex-boyfriend and I were once getting frisky, and he was repeatedly slapping me in the face while choking me. Granted, it was a little harder than I prefer. He was also coked out, and in my experience, people don't always realize how aggressive they're being while on the drug, but it wasn't unbearable or anything. He suddenly stopped a few minutes later, eyes wide in awe. Did I do that? Do what? Your face is all bruised. It's fine, I'll look at it later, I said dismissively. Later comes around and I look in the mirror to see a purple handprint outlined across my cheeks. Even the lines of his hand were painted on my face in broken blood vessels. My parents didn't know I was dating him, and they certainly didn't think I was banging, especially like that. On my way home, I stopped at Ulta and got color-correcting makeup, piled it on using the mirror in my car, and wore my hair down and slightly over my face. My parents could still see some of the bruising though, and when they asked what happened, I told them this absolute whopper. Oh, I was driving home from work and dropped my water bottle. It started to roll as if it was going to get in the way of the brake pedal, so I bent down to grab it. While I was still kind of bent down, a cat ran into the road and I slammed on the brakes and hit my face on the wheel. That is a premeditated reply if I have ever heard. There are too many details, honestly. I'm not saying I would recognize it in the moment. I'm just saying, like, OP worked on this before delivering it to the parents. She knew that it was like, okay, we gotta come up with a story here, somewhat feasible. Everyone likes cats, right? It doesn't say whether the parents bought it though, and I don't know. I feel like they kind of just have to assume it's true, cause what else? Story 9. I broke my wrist in gym class playing kickball when I was 16 or 17. The grass was wet. The girl on first base was a big and lazy girl, and I was in the shortstop position, so when I saw a kick go straight along the baseline, I knew what to expect. Girl didn't even bend down to try and stop it, just kind of waved one arm at her side. So I was running to try and get it, stopped it with one arm, but the grass was super wet and my feet just kept going. I fell down hard and had my left arm behind me to brace the fall. The only cool part of the story is that I finished out the rest of the game with what should have been a very obviously broken wrist. I went to the gym teacher afterwards and asked if I could go to the nurses for an ice pack before getting changed. He was just like, oh crap, that's broken. He flagged a kid to escort me to the nurses, and after a bit of walking and going up the stairs and the adrenaline wearing off, I went into shock and fainted. I told everyone in my first few years of college that it happened playing high school soccer instead of gym class kickball. I didn't play soccer in high school. See, okay, it's lies like this that make me say no to the question of like, oh, is all lying bad? Because some people think like, yeah, all lying is immoral and bad. But then I hear a lie like this and I'm like, but who cares, you know? Like, it doesn't affect anyone OP's gonna tell. It saves face for OP a little bit, and I'm sure they have a decent story to go along with it. I don't think it hurts anyone. I would also not want to admit I broke my wrist playing high school kickball. So, fair enough, OP. Story 10. I was playing football, soccer, with a bunch of friends. I was 12. Since we were all still school kids, one team was usually gonna steamroll the other. On this occasion, I happened to be the keeper on the winning team, so I had nothing to do, and I was pretty bored. I decided it was a good time to do some pull-ups, and so I grabbed the crossbar of the goalpost and pulled myself up. Once I was on top, I stuck my legs out for fun and got them stuck in the net. I ended up falling to the ground, and I stuck my hands out to prevent myself from breaking my tailbone. I eventually found out that I had broken my left wrist. with one of the bones inside the wrist being pushed out of position and slightly fractured. What I told my parents, and the doctor too, was that I was running after the ball and tripped over something, thus causing me to fall face first and break my wrist. Story 11. I once gave myself a black eye trying to move one of those heavy boxes/containers of cat litter. I leaned over to pick it up, and unbeknownst to me, it was actually empty instead of the full 30 to 35 pounds I was expecting. Brought it up fast, and the corner of the container clocked me in the eye. Thankfully, my school and friends know I'm fairly clumsy as it is, so they didn't really bat an eye at it once I assured them it was just my clumsiness. A fun tidbit, I've lived in the same house since I was born, and I've fallen down these same stairs I literally learned how to climb stairs on over 25 times in my life. I am 18, almost 19 now. That's a lot of time to fall down the stairs. All I'm saying, go to a doctor, get a checkup, partly for potential head injuries from all that falling down the stairs, and also partially for some inner ear stuff. Your balance is thrown off or something, OP. That is not actual medical advice. Some people are just clumsy. Also, you probably heard me laughing in there. Yeah, the image of someone thinking they're gonna pick up something really heavy and it's not, it's classic. It is as old as time, and it's amazing. Story 12. Not me, but my best friend in high school. For some reason or another, he thought that if he didn't poop, eventually his body would just absorb/digest 100% of the turd matter and make it into energy. Admittedly, for about the first 3 to 5 days, it was a painful battle, but he was able to keep it all in him. After that, the pains he was feeling sort of went away. Fast forward maybe a week or two. We go to Costco for lunch, $1.50 hot dogs, and while we were at the table eating, I see a look of agonizing pain go across his face. He said he has to go to the bathroom and he'll meet me outside. Now, this is when crap gets real. He knew that at that moment his experiment had failed, and that the time to release the poop was now. He got to a stall and started to push, except it wasn't all coming out. It had started normally enough, but very quickly his coil grew in diameter and he couldn't push it past his rim anymore. He found out later that what had happened was that his poop had essentially dried up and hardened inside of him, basically forming a reverse plug situation. Knowing that this wasn't going to come out on its own, he somehow managed to crab walk from the toilet to the sink, take the mirror off the wall, place it on the floor, squat over it, and, for sanitary concerns, wrapped his hands to his elbows in toilet paper. At this point, he assumed the position, grabbed on with both hands, and with a violent push/pull technique, released the plug of pressure and everything else that was built up behind it, and instantly passes out. This is where I re-enter the story. After almost an hour of waiting in a Costco parking lot, I go to the customer service desk. I inform them my friend has been in the bathroom for a long time and maybe someone should go check on him. I was greeted with a very odd look from an old lady at the counter who then followed me to the restroom with a set of keys. I then opened the door to see my best friend, face down on a mirror, pants around his ankles, blood and crap everywhere, with half of his arms wrapped up like a bad mummy costume on Halloween. Needless to say, paramedics were called. He had a concussion from hitting the floor and needed multiple stitches in his butt. Then he had to explain to his parents/doctors/Costco what happened and why he thought not pooping was a good idea. But because I was a good friend, when everyone asked why he wasn't at school for a week, I said, we got drunk off a shot of every bottle in my parents' liquor cabinet. Then we climbed a tree in my backyard and he fell and landed on the fence. This is the first time I've ever told anyone this story. Wow. Disgusting. First of all, let's get that out of the way. Yep, absolutely revolting. Wow. I'm kind of stun-locked on this one. This is peak stupidity, but an incredible story. Why would he do? What is wrong? Okay, I gotta move on. Story 13. In high school, I was just messing around with some friends in the parking lot after school, and I jumped off the back end of my friend's car while it was in motion and landed on my foot really bad. I either broke a bone in my foot or badly sprained it because I couldn't walk on it. I didn't want my mom to get mad at me for being an idiot, so I wrapped it up every day for a few months to keep it straight and not hurting. The pain eventually went away, but it was a rough few months that I had to fake not having a limp. She never really questioned why I was wearing pants every day for the early summer months, so whatever. Story 14. I lied to coworkers, no reason to lie to family. My injury was one night, a group of friends were walking home from the bars early in the morning. I ran ahead for some reason and then I needed to pee. I went into an alley between two houses and it was pitch black. I pee, but on my way back to the street I trip on a trash can lid. I ended up spraining my ankle so bad that a bone in my foot broke. Apparently this is supposed to happen. I had to limp home. To make matters worse, I was new to this job and had to take the train. I had to walk to and from the train station going up and down a ton of steps. Tough couple of weeks. Told them I hurt my foot playing sports. Story 15. My dad and I were roughhousing after my sister's graduation party. Beer was involved. He fake suplexed me and I fractured a rib. Honestly, I shrugged it off because of the beer. But the next day, the side of my chest was black and blue, and it was really painful to sneeze, cough, hiccup, or even lay in bed. It was miserable. The thing is, my other sister turned out to be an abusive, royal jerk. She was a chronic habitual liar and would do anything to get back at you for some perceived injustice, no matter the consequences. She was, and still is, a horrible person, and luckily she left all of our lives about 6 years ago. Good riddance. Around that same time, she was attempting to bring child abuse charges against my dad for refusing to buy her a car for her 16th birthday, making stuff up about what happened to her when she was younger to coerce him into cracking. This was doubly bad because my dad is a government contractor with a security clearance. She knew that even alleging this would ruin his career. Anyway, I went disc golfing with my friends the next day and got hit with a disc in the rib, so I could go to the doctor and not generate false evidence against my dad. There was inevitably an investigation, and my other sister and I were extensively interviewed. Eventually, all allegations were dropped, and thankfully, no detriment to his career. This was over 10 years ago, and he still doesn't know I might have completely saved his butt. He still thinks I broke it playing disc golf. Having your own child threaten you with fake allegations of abuse must be the most heartbreaking thing. Like, child, do you know how much time and money and love I have put into you, and this is what I get in return? God, that sucks, man. Sounds like just an anomaly, too, if the 2 out of the 3 weren't bad. OP definitely had a really good reason to lie here. I don't think it was just too embarrassing. So not quite the prompt, but I'll accept it. Story 16. I was at a house party when I was like 16 or 17, and there were 5 of us in the girl's mom's bedroom for no reason. Someone checked under her mom's bed and found like 5 fake dongs and adult DVDs and decks of playing cards with adult pictures on them. So we obviously thought it would be awesome to throw the fake dongs at each other. Unfortunately, I took a big red double ender right to the eyeball. My eye had a big red blood mark right on the white part. Just told everyone that I hit my eye with my jacket zipper when putting my jacket on. No regrets, it was hilarious. Story 17. Don't know how my parents never figured this out, but I somehow covered up a laceration from a rope as a muffler burn. One day I got the lawnmower stuck, and being the dumb 14-year-old I was, I devised a plan to get it out. I put a bucket of scrap metal in the seat so the weight sensor would let the mower move, and pushed the sticks all the way forward. Then gave a gentle tug with the four-wheeler via a rope, and the mower came right out. Here's where things go wrong. I had to hurry to stop the mower since it was running away. First step off the four-wheeler, I slipped and fell, and the mower rolled right past me, and the rope caught my leg before it broke free. Somehow, it managed to run over something to topple the bucket over and bring the mower to a stop. How I got out of that without major injury to me or the mower is beyond me. Spent an hour picking up nails that fell out of the bucket because they spilled in the driveway, and I didn't want to cause a bunch of flat tires. I don't know how I got away with that one, but I did. Story 18. I slid down a playground fire pole while wearing a dress when I was about 8, and it basically rug burned my pelvic area. I didn't tell anyone because I was on a trip with my dad and brother and was too embarrassed to talk about my privates to either. So I suffered through the whole trip even though I was bleeding. To top things off, when we got home, my dad called me into the laundry room because he had found my blood-stained undies. He gave me a talking to about wiping properly because he assumed the now brown-colored blood was poop. Yeah, if I ever have kids, I'll make sure they know they can tell mom or dad anything. Hey, at least a decent lesson came out of it. It's true, I feel like kids often hide these sorts of injuries from one parent or sometimes both. If for whatever reason they don't feel comfortable telling a parent about something like this, it can lead to major complications in the long term or even just short-term discomfort. These things can be avoided just by parents making their kid know that, yeah, you can literally tell us anything and it's all good. That does sound truly horrific though, OP. I'm sorry that happened. Those playground fire poles are just the devil incarnate as far as I'm concerned. Nothing ever good happens with those. Anyway, that's our last story for today. This seems like a prompt that would have answers from a lot of you guys too, so if you want to throw something in the comments, please do. I'll give them a read. But that aside, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next one.